Next topic, reasoning, 推理哦。For reasoning, we are going to focus on two kinds of reasoning. The first one, deductive. The second one, inductive. 中文是翻演绎。第一个 deductive 是演绎 ，inductive 是归纳。Deductive reasoning. What is deductive reasoning? For deductive reasoning, you need two premises. Okay? And you have to draw a conclusion based on the two premises. Like premise 1, humans need to eat. Premise 2, I am a human. Conclusion, I need to eat. This is a deductive reasoning, a very simple deductive reasoning. But reasoning, the example I just gave, it's easy. But reasoning is not always easy. And sometimes our reasoning skills could be contaminated by our past experience. Like what? Like this one. There is premise 1, all things that have a motor need oil. Premise 2, automobiles need oil. Conclusion, automobiles have motors. Automobiles, 汽车 汽机车. If you look at this reasoning, actually it looks fine. Okay? But it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because this reasoning, the conclusion is true, according to your experience, life experience. Automobiles, they all need motors. But this conclusion is not based on the two premises. Because if you change the automobiles into something like gas stations, then you will find that there's a problem. All things that have a motor need oil, premise 1. Premise 2, gas stations need oil. But conclusion, gas stations have motors. This conclusion doesn't seem to be right. Because this reasoning doesn't follow valid deductive reasoning. But somehow for the previous one, the conclusion seems to be more correct. And if you ask people to judge whether this reasoning is true or false, probably people will tell you, okay, this is reasonable, but in fact it's not reasonable. This is belief bias effect, which means that when we are doing a reasoning task, usually we are using our past experience to do the reasoning task. The past experience could be harmful, like in this case, it actually hurts your reasoning. But it is not always harmful. This effect is called belief bias effect. Okay? Your belief or your past experience will affect your reasoning. But sometimes your past experience can help you with reasoning, like this example. If there are 4 cards and there's one letter on the one side and a digit on the other side. Okay. If there is a rule, the rule is if a card has a vowel on one side, then it has to be an even number on the other side. Vowel, 母音 A, E, I, O, U, these letters are vowels. So like A is a vowel and D is a consonant. If there is a vowel on the one side, then there has to be an even number on the other side. Even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 偶数 odd number, 奇数. So 4 is an even number, but 7 is an odd number. Okay, so the rule is if a card has a vowel on the one side, and it has to be an even number on the other side. And there are 4 cards here. If I want you to check 2 of them, just 2 of them, you can check all of them. You can only check 2 of them. Which 2 would you check? Which 2 cards would you flip to look at the other side? Okay. Does anyone have any question about what we are doing now? On every card, there's a letter on the one side and a digit on the other side. And the rule is, if there is a vowel on the one side, then it has to be an even number on the other side. And you can only check 2 of them among the 4. Which 2 would you check? Which 2 cards would you flip to look at the other side? If you think you have to check the card of A, raise your hands. It doesn't seem to be very easy, so some people, they still have to think. But the next question will make it easy. The next question is, now you are a police officer and you are raiding in a night bar, and there are 4 people, and the first person is drinking beer. The second person is drinking soda, 汽水, huh? But you don't know how old the first person is. You don't know how old the second person is. And the third person is 23 years old. But you don't know what he or she is drinking. And the number 4 person is 17 years old. And you don't know what he or she is drinking. If you are a police officer, and according to the law, if a customer is to drink an alcoholic drink, then he or she must be at least 18 years old. Okay, if you need to check 2 of them to see whether they are abiding the law, which 2 people would you check? Okay, according to the law, if you are drinking anything alcoholic, you have to be over 18 years old. And now there are 4 people here. If you think you have to check the person who is drinking the beer, raise your hands. Somehow, it's easier with the second task, the second question. But if you compare the first question and the second question, the first question is, if something is a vowel, then on the other side of the vowel, it has to be an even number. So you check a vowel, and okay, so far we are not sure which card we have to check. But if you look at the second one, if someone is drinking alcoholic, then it has to be over 18. And you know instantly you have to check alcohol and under 18, not over 18, under 18. According to the logic, supposedly you have to check vowel, because if you check alcohol here, then you have to check the vowel here. Yes, so you have to check A. But you have to check an odd number. Just like in this case, you are checking the person under 18, not over 18. Okay? So you have to check 7, because there can't be a vowel on the other side of 7. You can imagine if there is an O on the other side of 7, then it will break the rule, which means that there could be an odd number on the other side of a vowel. So there can't be a vowel on the other side of 7. So you have to check 7. Just like here, you have to check people under 18. But somehow, the second task is easier, and you get the answer instantly. But the first one, although they involve exactly the same reasoning skills, but the second one just harder. Why? Because in this case, your past experience helps your reasoning skills. Okay. So when we are reasoning something, we are not only doing the reasoning, we are actually using our past experience. And some of those past experiences, they are harmful. Sometimes those experiences, they are helpful. Okay? Depends. So that was deductive reasoning. The next one, inductive reasoning. 归纳法哦. What is inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is you use available limited evidence to draw a conclusion. Okay? For example, you have many friends, and some of them are rich, some of them are not that rich, and you have found that those rich friends, they tend to be more arrogant. So you draw a conclusion that rich people are arrogant. In this case, basically you are drawing a conclusion based on limited evidence. Usually those evidence are something around you. This kind of reason is inductive reasoning. Okay. For inductive reasoning, our human beings, we use analogical problem solving. We use the experience in the past to solve the current problem, but sometimes it doesn't work. Okay. Basically, when you are drawing any conclusion, you are only based on those experiences that you come across in the past. Okay, use your personal experience to draw conclusion. This is our tendency on inductive reasoning. Okay, next topic, judgment and decision making. We have to introduce this term, heuristic. This is plural, okay? Heuristics. And what is heuristics? Heuristic is like the shortcut of thinking. For example, if you go to watch a movie with your friend, and after the movie, your friend asks you, did you enjoy the movie? How do you feel about the movie? Supposedly, you should make a list. And on that list, it has to be cast, costume, story, and so on and so forth. Just like when you are writing a term paper, an essay, that is what you are doing. You are analyzing the topic. And yes, in an academic context, that is something you have to do. You have to analyze things. But when you are watching a movie with your friend, it is not something you would do. Basically, when someone asks you, how did you feel about the movie? You are not analyzing it. You just give them a very quick answer. Okay, I think the movie was okay, was good. You just give a very generic term, and you are not analyzing it. But why you feel the movie is good, or why you feel the movie is not good, that kind of thinking is heuristic. It's like thinking shortcut. You are not analyzing things, but you are just giving an answer based on a hunch. Okay, a hunch, 一个直觉, that kind of hunch. In psychology, we call it a heuristic. Okay. So heuristics are shortcuts in solving complex problems. Not only for watching a movie, like when you are shopping and when you are voting, or even you are choosing your partner to marry with. And when you are making these decisions, supposedly, according to your training, your academic training, you have to make a list. And it's like a checklist. And you are checking, tick this, tick that. Eventually, you compare A and B, which one has higher score, and you make a final decision. That is something you have to do, supposedly, or in an academic setting. But it is not something you would do in your real life. Basically, in your real life, when you want to decide which house to buy, which property to buy, which things to buy, which candidates to vote for, okay, which persons to marry, actually you are not making a list. You're just making those decisions based on sort of a feeling or a hunch. That kind of hunch and feeling, those are heuristics. Yeah, how many times do we really make a decision by rational analytical thinking? No, we are not doing analytical thinking. We are just doing it by the feeling or the hunch. But we all know that logic, statistics, and probability, those are all important. So if you are writing a term paper, writing an essay, you will use those logic or statistic or probability skills, but you are not using them in your real life. Okay? You are using heuristics in your life. But the next question is, what are they? They are hunch and they are feelings, but what exactly are they? There are several different kinds of heuristics, and we're only talking about 3 of them. Availability heuristic, representativeness heuristic, and anchoring heuristic. None of them look very simple. Okay, what are they? Availability heuristic, what is it? Availability heuristic is when you are making a decision, you are based on those more available information in your memory. For example, some people, they might think that taking an airplane is dangerous. And if you really compare those fatality rates about car accidents and airplane crashes, actually the likelihood for a crash to happen is much lower than any car accident. So if you look at those statistical results, taking a plane should be safe. But some people still think it's dangerous. But why is it dangerous? Why do people think it is dangerous? The reason is, although accidents happen every day, like car accidents there are much even more, but those news of car accidents, they don't stay in your memory that much or that long. But whenever there's a plane crash, you can find the news like repetitively on TV, and they somehow, and usually those images, they are more scary. So those memories, those images, they become more available in your memory. And whenever you have to make a decision, you are based on those more available memories. And this is availability heuristic. This kind of example is more relevant to our everyday life. But in a psychology lab, sometimes in order to avoid confounding variables, sometimes you can't use those scenarios that are more interesting. Sometimes you are forced to use those more boring materials like the letter, this kind of stuff, because you want to avoid confounding variables. And in this study, this is a lab study, they asked like English speakers, okay, probably Americans, they asked them to judge for those words with a K. They could be at the beginning position, or they could be in the third position. In the beginning position is like this word kite. It starts with a K. But there are some other words where the K is in the third position, like Duke. And they asked English-speaking subjects which kinds of words are more than the other. Okay. The answer is the third. Actually, if you look at English dictionary, there are more words with K in the third position than K in the first position. But of course, you will probably say that no one is really reading a dictionary. Of course, even you don't study a dictionary, if you look at the word frequency that English speakers use, in their everyday conversation, they actually use more words with K in the third position than the K at the first position. So supposedly, if you are making this decision according to their memory fairly, they should report the third position is more. But that is not something that people are based. People are not really making a decision based on everything in your memory. You rely more on those more available information in your memory. Just like for some people, when they have to judge whether taking a plane is dangerous or not, they are making this decision based on the news of plane crashes, which are more available in your memory. And this kind of heuristic is availability heuristic. You are making a decision based on more available information in your memory. So air travel is dangerous, or celebrities are promiscuous. Promiscuous means that someone has multiple sexual partners, okay, more complicated private personal life. Usually people have this kind of stereotype. Celebrities, they could be someone in the entertainment circle, or politicians. They tend to have multiple sexual partners, or they have more complicated personal life. But actually no one is really doing research about this. So actually there's no statistical report about this topic. But how come most of us have this kind of stereotype? It's not based on statistics, probability, or logic. It is based on availability heuristic. Because celebrities can do a lot of things, but you will only remember it when they are doing something more like dirty. Or anyone could be promiscuous, but you would not care about them unless they are celebrities. So only for those news with celebrities being more promiscuous, those information will stay in your memory and they become more available. So you are making a decision based on availability heuristic. Basically, I want to emphasize here is, actually when we are making a decision, we are not really making the decision based on statistical rules. We are based on those information that are more available in our memory. Okay? And this is availability heuristic. Representativeness heuristic. What does it mean? Okay. Now I want you to do a very simple reasoning task. A woman whose name is Sarah. Sarah loves to see operas and she plays the piano. And if I want you to guess, is Sarah a teacher or a music teacher? Which one would you choose? If you choose teacher, raise your hands. If you choose music teacher, raise your hands. Okay, so most people will choose music teacher. Yeah. She could be neither. But if I just want you to guess, and you have to guess from one of the two. Actually, the point is not the answer. The point is how you make the decision. Because if you think about this, in terms of probability, supposedly a safer answer should be a teacher, because a teacher could be, a music teacher is also a teacher. So if Sarah is a music teacher, she is also a teacher. So if you choose for teacher, suppose in terms of probability, if you only look at the probability, you should choose teacher. It's more likely that you will get it right. Although of course, you can still get it wrong, but teacher is a safer answer. But apparently, we are not using probability to make a decision. We are using something else. What is that something else? That something else is representativeness heuristic. And what is representativeness heuristic? Okay, it's more like stereotype heuristic. One way to understand representative heuristic is anything that you can think of about stereotype. They are representativeness heuristic. Because if you think about a teacher, you have a stereotype about a teacher. A teacher should behave in a certain way. Probably a teacher is someone wearing glasses, with someone probably over 50 years old. These kind of features. This is something when you would think of when you're thinking about a teacher. And a representative teacher could be someone with glasses, someone over maybe 40 years old. This is a representative teacher. But a representative music teacher is slightly different. A representative music teacher could, maybe this person is not wearing glasses, but a representative music teacher is someone who plays piano, someone who likes to see operas, and it has to be classical operas. It's not like musicals. So you have a stereotype about what a representative music teacher is. And then you compare Sarah. Does Sarah look or sound more like a representative teacher or a representative music teacher? According to your past experience, past knowledge, Sarah actually resembles more a music teacher, so you make decision. Okay, Sarah is a music teacher. So basically you are not using, in this case, you are not using probability at all. You are using how similar Sarah close to a representative teacher and a representative music teacher. And this kind of decision-making process, we call it representativeness heuristic. Okay? A simple way to understand this, if you are using your stereotype, then you are using representativeness heuristic. Okay, the next one, anchoring heuristic. What does it mean? This word is even more uncommon. Anchoring. Anchoring 中文是翻定锚的意思啦，就是你以某个点为基准。You are using the initial point as a beginning. Then it's an anchor. Okay? If you have a lot of different information and you base more on the initial one, that kind of heuristic, this kind of heuristic is anchoring heuristic. For example, if you want to ask for advice from your friends, okay, you want to make a decision whether I should go into the graduate school or I should work. You are making a career decision. So you are asking your friends, your parents, your family members, your relatives, and your teachers. You are trying to get advice from them. Usually for the advice that you get initially, it affects you more. For example, you might ask your parents first, and then followed by your friends, followed by your teacher. Eventually, your decision will rely more on your parents. But if you start with your friends, then followed by your teacher, followed by your family members, probably your decision will be affected more by your friends. But in any case, when you are trying to get information, you rely on those initial information that you gather first. That kind of heuristic is anchoring heuristic. But of course, in a lab, in a psychology lab, you can't use too fancy stimuli or too fancy materials. You can only use those boring materials like numbers and digits in order to avoid confounding variables. So in this published study, they asked subjects to estimate the value of this one, 8 times 7 times 6 and so on and so forth up to 1. In another condition, they have to estimate the product of 1 times 2 times 3 and so on and so forth up to 8. And they had only 5-second time to do this estimation. Why does it have to as short 5 seconds? Of course, if you have a 1 hour time to calculate this, of course everyone can get it correct. And this is not, you don't have to use heuristic at all, you just use your mathematical skill. But this is not testing your mathematical skill. This is testing your heuristic, your hunch, or what kind of hunch you use. So they can only guess or estimate. And if you look at their performance, the estimated value for the first group is much higher than the second group, which means that when they are estimating, they are actually not calculating, they are estimating, they are guessing. Actually, this kind of scenario is more like when you are trying to make a career decision. You know, the process of making a career decision is like you have to do an estimation within 5 seconds because you don't have enough time and enough information. So you can also rely on your hunch. Your hunch relies more on those initial things that you are exposed to. Okay. Probably this is still a little bit abstract. Next, we are going to do a simple task, which hopefully can give you a more clear idea about what anchoring heuristic is. Now, you all have a student number, right? For those whose student numbers are an odd number, 奇数的, odd number, raise your hands. Odd numberers. If your student number is an odd number, raise your hands. 奇数的. Supposedly, there should be half of the people here. Odd number. So the rest will be even number, right? Okay. Now, for those even numberers, if your student ID number is an even number, 偶数的同学，学号偶数的同学 please close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay. Even numberers, close your eyes. Okay. And odd numberers, please prepare a pen and a piece of paper. I want you to do a guessing task. And the question is, Mahatma Gandhi, this is the only thing I can say. I can't talk too much. You have to answer the first question. Did Mahatma Gandhi, 圣雄甘地? So you have to answer the question before or after. Okay. This is the first question, and you write down your question on that piece of paper. After you have written down this question, the second question is, when did he pass away? When did he die? After you have written down your answers, then close your eyes. I mean for odd numberers. Now, even numberers, 偶数的, open your eyes and please prepare a piece of paper and a pen. And you have to answer two questions. The first question is, did Mahatma Gandhi, 圣雄甘地, pass away? Means when did he die? Before or after the age of this? Okay, and this is how old was he? It's not 1950s. How old was he? And the second one, when did he pass away? How old was he when he passed away, when he died? And don't Google it. Don't use your smartphone. It's just a guess. Because if you use a smartphone, I'm not testing your reasoning. Okay, now everyone open your eye. So we start from here. So now you tell me whether you are your student number is odd number or even number. Okay. Actually, we don't. Now, probably you can see a trend that because we don't have many people today, so probably the effect is not known. But you can still find a trend that for odd numberers, the estimated age is higher than the even numberers. The reason is if you look at what they looked, this is what the first group should be, the odd numberers, what they saw. Okay, so they start. The question was, did Mahatma Gandhi pass away before or after the age of 90? So when they had to estimate the age, they started with 90. But for even numberers, they started with 50. So that's why you can find a huge difference between the two. So when you are guessing, when you are facing uncertainty, you rely more on those information you come across first. This heuristic is anchoring heuristic. So you can think about this. So when you need information from a group of people, imagine there's a meeting, okay? And then you want to get advice from everyone from the group. Is it better to let people express their opinions openly, or you get information individually from everyone? Okay, this is something you can think about, because imagine a meeting setting. Usually when people are not very sure about something, the first person who expresses his or her opinions actually will affect the subsequent opinions based on anchoring heuristic. Or if you want to get advice from different people, remember the order is important. Usually the first advice will affect your decision more based on anchoring heuristic. Okay. So according to availability heuristic, probably if you want to really get a fair judgment or fair information from other people, probably the best strategy is you try to get information individually from each person instead of getting the information from an open situation. Okay? Because usually when the situation where the context is open, the group decision will be biased towards the initial opinion. Okay. So far we've talked about how we interpret event. The next thing is how we make decisions. So speaking of decision making, there is something very important, which is framing. And what is framing? Framing is how an option is described. Now, I also have to separate the class into two groups. For odd numbers, if your student numbers is an odd number, please close your eyes. Okay. And for even numbers, please prepare a piece of paper and a pen. Next, I want you to make a decision. And you have to write down your decision. So for even numbers, okay, this is an unfortunate decision, okay, you have to make. This is a situation you are facing. You have a very good friend, and unfortunately your friend is diagnosed as some cancer. And there are two therapies that you have to help him or her make a decision which therapies, which treatments he or she should take. So there is a surgery treatment, and there is a radiotherapy. And these are the results, the consequences of the two treatments. And you have to pick one treatment from the two. Okay. And if you have made a decision, write down your decision. And once you have written it down, don't change it. If you have made a decision, then close your eyes. Don't change your answer. Close your eyes. Now, odd numbers. 刚刚计数的哈. Please open your eyes and prepare a piece of paper and a pen. What you have to do now is make a decision. Okay. So unfortunately, you have a very good friend who has been diagnosed as some kind of serious cancer. And there are two treatments that he or she can choose from. It could be surgery or radiotherapy. Okay? And these are the consequences of the two treatments. And now you have to make a decision which treatment to take. Once you have made a decision, write down your answer. Okay, so now everyone open your eyes. Because we don't have many people today, so probably the result wouldn't be that obvious as the published result. But let's see. So there are two therapies, two treatments. The first one is surgery. The second one is radiotherapy. So for even numbers, okay, even numbers, how many of you have chosen surgery? If you chose surgery, raise your hands. Just even numbers, just even numbers. Actually, the result is sort of similar to theirs, because for survival frame, what is survival frame? This is what the information the even numbers have got. The information are survival rate. So this is the information the even numbers have seen. So what the information they got was the survival rate. 90 of them will be alive after the surgery. But actually, 90 of them are alive. This information is exactly the same as 10 of them will die. Okay? So actually for the two groups of people, for you guys, actually you were exposed to exactly the same information, but the only thing different was how these options are described. So this is framing, okay? How these options are framed. And it will affect the result. If you look at here, for even numbers, most of them would choose surgery, because if you look at the result, the consequence in 5 years, actually the surgery seems to be better. Because after 5 years, 34% will still be alive, but only 22% will be alive if you take the radiotherapy. So that is also why most of the even numbers would be choosing surgery. But if you look at the decision made by the odd numbers, apparently it's more kind of half-half. Okay. If we have more people, I believe that people will tend to choose radiotherapy. But unfortunately, we don't have enough people. We just have 5 odd numbers. So probably the result is not that clear. But as you can see from here, if you see the information that 10 died after surgery, probably people will get scared by this information. So they tend not to choose surgery. Okay? So, and this is the published result. For survival frame, most people will choose surgery, okay, which is very similar to our results. But for mortality frame, okay, similar, like it's more of a half-half result. People will choose evenly between surgery or radiotherapy. Okay, so this is framing effect. Basically, it means that how an option is described or how an option is framed will affect your decision. Okay, so that was decision making. The next topic is the consequence of decision making. After you have made a decision, chances are you will regret. So let's talk about regret. Speaking of regret, there is a tendency that people tend to regret about their education and careers. There are a lot of decisions that we make in our life, like how you choose your friend, how you choose your career, how you choose your partner. But usually we feel more regretful about the career-related decision. And why is it? Probably because for career-related decision, potentially you have more options. There could be like hundreds of options, but you just have chosen one of them. But probably for other decisions, like to choose a partner, probably potentially there are not that many people to choose from. So you don't feel regretful that much. But for career or education-related decisions, we tend to feel regretful more. And is there any physiological basis or neural structure that is related to regret? There seems to be one. This area is called putamen. And how do we know that putamen is related to regret? This is the task they use in this research. The subject, the research participant, they had to play a game. This game is like this. There are like 8 cards in front of the subjects. And 7 of them are gold. 1 of them is a devil. And if you flip any card, if you get a gold, then you'll get some money. But if you get a devil, then you have to return all the money that you have. So this is the rule of the game. Okay. So imagine you are a research subject. So you flip 1 card and you get a gold, and then you are happy. And then you move on. You flip the next card and you get gold again, and you are happy. But now you are facing a decision. You are struggling whether you should moving on or not, whether you should continue or not. Because if you continue, if you are fortunate, then you will get another gold. But if you are unfortunate, then you have to return all the golds you have. Okay? So let's say that you are a conservative participant. So you decide to stop here. And then the experimenter, the researcher, they tell you that actually the devil is here. Then you start to feel regretful. Okay? The more the distance between your last gold and the devil is, the more regretful you feel. Okay? So this is the task. And those research subjects, they were playing this game inside of this functional MRI machine. So they were playing the game, and also their brain were being scanned. And this is the scanning result. The horizontal axis here denotes the distance to the devil box. Basically, the longer the distance between the devil and your last goal, the more regretful you feel. So the horizontal axis here denotes how regretful you are. And the vertical axis here denotes the change in activity in your putamen. Okay, putamen is a structure in your brain. And they found there is a correlation between the brain activity in putamen and how much you feel regretful. So maybe there is a brain center which is related to regret. So that was decision making. We talked about cognitive psychology, and in the second hour we talked about heuristics, availability heuristic, representativeness heuristic, and anchoring heuristic, and then we talked about decision making, framing. Okay, these topics, if you are interested in this kind of topic, this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and there is a Chinese translation for it. Okay, it was written by Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman, he won a Nobel Prize, but in economics, not in psychology. Okay? But he is a psychologist, and his research topic is about decision making. Okay? And the whole book is talking about heuristics. In addition to those 3 heuristics we talked about last week, he also talked about other different kinds of heuristics. Okay? If you want to know more about this kind of topic, then read this book. But basically, the theme of that book is, for most of us, actually for human beings, we have 2 cognitive systems. And let's just call them System 1 and System 2. And why do we need 2 systems? Because their purposes, their functions are different. For System 1, usually System 1 is more active when you are facing a danger. When you have to make a decision quickly, then you tend to use your hunch or your gut feeling. That kind of hunch, that kind of intuition, basically they are not logical, okay? But they are really fast. And that kind of cognitive system, we just call them System 1, is fast and is heuristic based. It is not logic based, okay? And is not rational. Okay? Usually when we are facing a danger, when we have to make a quick decision, then we tend to rely more on System 1. Okay? And System 2 is slow and analytical and rational. And actually System 2 is the system we are using when we are studying, like you guys, when you are now listening to my lecture, you are actually using the System 2. Or when you are studying, when you are preparing for an exam, you are using your System 2. When you are learning mathematics, when you are learning a foreign language, you are also using the System 2. Basically, the whole school education is training your System 2. But unfortunately, you are not always relying on your System 2. Sometimes, because although System 2 contains a lot of information, but it's so slow. So when you are facing a danger, probably you don't have time to really analyze the situation. Then you have to rely on your System 1. But unfortunately, System 1 sometimes is not very rational. And it relies more on heuristics. Okay? And basically the whole book of Thinking Fast and Slow, it is talking about System 1, okay? Which is relatively unexplored.